This is a sports catastrophe production. Hey there, Heather Hilder. It's Jeff Cutterdime. Welcome you to a sports catastrophe birthday boy. There wasn't anything interesting to make it a on this day. So sorry about that, but anyway. Let's press on. This is a superstar hockey player who is known as Peter the Great. He's 48 years old today. And basically, his career was shortened by persistent injuries. And basically, if he was not injury prone, he would be one of the major legends in NHL history. Kind of like Mike Bossy and Bobby Orr. They both had bad injuries. Anyway, he's ninth in points per game and fifth in assists per game, behind only Gretzky, Lemieux, Orr, and Connor McDavid. In 2017, he's one of the greatest NHL players of all time. For Peter Forsberg, he played 13 years in the NHL, winning 2 cups with the Avalanche and the Hart Trophy in 2003 as MVP. He never had a negative plus minus before his comeback season in 2011. He was one of the most major Swedish players in international play history, competing in 4 Winter Olympics, 2 World Cups, 5 World Championships, and a couple of World Juniors, where he has a record that will never be broken. He's won 2 Winter Olympic gold medals and 2 World Championship gold medals. He's a member of the Triple Gold Club, meaning that he's won World Juniors, World Seniors, and a Cup. And he was elected to the IIHF Hall of Fame, that's the World Hockey Hall of Fame in 2013, and the Hockey Hall of Fame for the NHL in 2014. So anyway, Peter Forsberg is the son of Kent Forsberg, who used to coach the Swedish national team. And Kent would actually be the main head coach for the 96 World Cup, 98 Olympics, and 98 World Championships. So that's weird. Peter Forsberg played minor hockey alongside Marcus Naslund. So he's the same age as Marcus Naslund. And I believe they both were drafted in 1991. That's where, if I remember correctly. So anyway, they were together forever and all that. So anyway, he debuted with Modo, the junior squad, and then went up to the senior team in the Swedish Elite League. In 91, he would score 102 points for the junior team and 17 points for the senior team. And the 91 NHL entry draft happened. Everyone knows about Eric Lindros being the number 1 pick to Quebec Nordiques and basically refusing to play for Quebec. It was not because of being a francophone city. It was because Quebec was not a well-oiled machine at the time. The ownership sucked. And it also hurts your image when basically your meddling parents want you to play for another city worth being in. So anyway, regardless. And then the 91 draft is also remembered for the Sharks getting the number 2 pick. Well, their expansion team given the number 2 pick. And they took Pat Falloon, who ended up being a big bust despite him being a good junior player. In fact, their next pick was also Spokane Chief like Pat Falloon, but he had a better career in the NHL. His name, Ray Whitney. It was also known for the Leafs having the 3rd overall pick. But unfortunately, due to the fact they traded away their first-round pick to New Jersey the season prior to get Tom Krugers, the one of a power play quarterback, defenseman in the NHL. It was the Devils pick, and they took Scott Niedermayer, who ended up being very good and all that. Well, Forsberg was taken 6th. It was amazing. Everyone thought Forsberg was not that high of a pick. Would have been that. The Hockey News basically said that he was the 25th best draft prospect in its draft preview. And anyone saying he's a solid second rounder who could move into the first. Philly media criticized that pick and all that. So anyway, Forsberg would be involved in the Eric Lindros saga because he was one of the players that Philly traded to Quebec to get Eric Lindros when Lindros finally decided to play and all that. So it sent 5 players, 2 first-round picks, and $15 million to the Quebec Nordiques. It was a one-sided deal for the wrong side, as Quebec/Colorado got the better of it. Forsberg would play for Modo for 3 years and all that. Forsberg decided during the summer of '94 to play in the NHL. It was a 4-year deal worth $6.5 million combined, obviously. The lockout would delay his NHL debut until 1995. And Forsberg decided to go back to Modo. After the lockout ended, the '95 season began January 1995. Forsberg would make his debut against the Flyers, the team that drafted him, and picked up an assist. He would score against Buffalo 6 days later. His rookie season was very impressive. He scored 50 points in 47 games. And second on the team in scoring behind Joe Sakic. The Nordiques looked good, but the Rangers took him out of the first round of 6 games. Worst was that Quebec was going to move to Colorado and all that. But the good news is that Forsberg did win the Calder Trophy for Best Rookie. And Forsberg did score the last goal in Nordiques history when he scored against the Rangers in Game 6. But Forsberg and Sakic would basically be a powerhouse for the Avalanche. Alongside Adam Foote, and coming in later in the first year in Denver was Patrick Roy. So anyway, the Avalanche won the Stanley Cup and all that. They easily crushed Florida. Florida was the big Cinderella team out of the East, but they got crushed in 4 straight games. Forsberg scored 116 points, his best total in a regular season. But it would be the only NHL season he would play in every one of his team's games. Forsberg would have a bruised thigh in the chance for Colorado to go back-to-back, but he failed. Forsberg would only fight once in his NHL career, and that was against Martin Lapointe, but that was not in the Wings Avalanche brawl. Forsberg did pretty well for himself, but Colorado lost in the conference finals against Detroit. But Forsberg was chosen to be on the cover of NHL 98. I wonder if that game was any good, because all I know, well, I got the Sega Genesis emulator version of it. NHL 98 brought full national teams, which could not get the Nagano Olympic tournament license. Vladimir Konstantinov was in NHL 98. That's weird, even though he was injured and all that. And the Sega Saturn version has Lemieux in it. Yeah. A lot of positive reviews about the PlayStation version. It has a fast gameplay and team strategies on the fly. There wasn't a lot of attention for the Genesis version. But anyway, regardless, so he was on the cover. He would do fine. And then 2001, when the Avalanche won the second Stanley Cup, Forsberg wasn't really part of the roster. Forsberg had to have his spleen removed after the second round against the Kings and basically missed the rest of the playoffs. So no conference finals and no Stanley Cup finals for him. He decided to take the 2001-02 season off to recuperate because of his deteriorating health. He would come back for the playoffs and score 27 points, leading the NHL in scoring, which was shocking as a playoff team. But Colorado lost to Detroit in the conference finals. Holy smokes. 2003, he would help himself be the MVP, but he would center the amp line, Alex, Milan, Peter. As him, Peter Forsberg, Milan Hajduk, and Alex Tanguay. Much healthier, he would lead the league in points with 106, so he got the Art Ross Trophy. But the Wild got them in the playoffs, which was shocking, and St. Patrick going to retirement. Forsberg decided to go back to Modo during the lockout of 2005. So Forsberg, when the NHL came back, decided to return to North America. But the salary cap was implemented, and Colorado had troubles. They were one of the highest spenders in the league, and they had to let go of Forsberg and Adam Foote to save room in the cap for Joe Sakic and Rob Blake. He had a 4-year, $13.5 million offer from the Avalanche, but he refused it and went back to Philadelphia, the team that drafted Forsberg in '91, for 2 years, $11.5 million. Unfortunately, he had to have surgery to remove a bursa sac from his right ankle. He did okay for the Flyers and all that, but basically, he had to have surgery on his right ankle to correct deformities because of an abnormal arch that caused him to stretch his ankle tendons. He was actually named captain of the Flyers in September 2006. But the Flyers had their worst season ever, and Forsberg couldn't do much. So, basically, with his time almost up, Philly decided to mercy trade him to Nashville for Scotty Upshaw and a few picks. The Predators' last regular season game was in Colorado, and this was the first time Forsberg returned to Denver since leaving the Avalanche. Nashville would ruin Colorado's playoff hopes and all that. And that was the first time the Avalanche failed to make the playoffs in Colorado. But the Sharks would get the Predators in the first round of the playoffs. Forsberg signed a contract in February of 2008 back to Colorado. But injuries would take him out. Forsberg would play with Modo. Go back to Sweden. He thought about retiring, but then January 2011, it was found out he was training to be with Colorado in a comeback. So they Avalanche signed him to a deal. And yeah, he played with the Avalanche. All of that. But foot problems would ruin him. And basically, before Forsberg's first home game back as a member of the team, he would retire. He was named assistant GM of the Modo organization. And before the 2011 season opener for the Avalanche, his 21 was retired. Modo would retire his numbers in 2015. But a lot of people who really aren't into the NHL would say Peter Forsberg was one of the best players for Sweden internationally. I tend to agree. He played in 2 World Juniors. The '93 World Juniors was when he really shone. He had 31 points in 7 games. Well, it would be a lot easier. Well, the competition seemed to be a little easier, if you will. I mean, so the '93 championships were held in Sweden. Canada shocked everyone by winning the gold, where Sweden won silver and the Czechs won bronze. So yeah, Peter Forsberg got 31 points. Now remember, in '93, it was still round robin, so there were 8 teams in the competition. You play each team once, so you get 7 games. Most points wins. Canada beats Sweden. Yeah, Canada beats Sweden 5-4. And shockingly enough, that actually was the tiebreaker because Canada beat Sweden head to head. They won the gold, despite both nations being 6-1. The Czechs would take 3rd place. Well, they started the championships as Czechoslovakia, but because of the dissolving into the Czech Republic and Slovakia, basically they would be unified and all that. So yeah, so that was huge. So they took 3rd. U.S., then Finland, then Russia, then Germany, and Japan. Surprised how Japan got in. How did they get it? But yeah, they were relegated in 1994. I don't think Japan's ever played in the World Juniors since 1993. Yeah, they got battered. They only scored 9 goals. They scored They scored twice against the U.S. They scored once against Sweden. They scored twice against Slovakia. They actually scored once against Canada. They scored 3 times against Germany. Well, yeah. So Canada lost to the Czechs. But thankfully, though, that wasn't enough to get them out. I think they kind of knew they were in. So anyway, Peter Forsberg, 7 goals, 24 assists, 31 points in 7 games. That's amazing what he did. And Naslund means second in scoring with 24 points. And yet, they still lost the gold medal, as Manny Legacy was the icon and goaltender and all that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Japan's ever been. Their best result was the 8th in 1993. Yeah, I don't think they've ever been to the World Juniors after that. So yeah, Forsberg was best player in World Junior history by TSN. In 1994, he was played for Sweden at the Olympic Games, and that famous gold medal game against Canada that went to a shootout. He did his famous shootout move. It was a move he actually borrowed from Kent Nielsen. Forsberg's image of shooting that goal over Corey Hirsch was made on a Swedish postage stamp. So yeah, Forsberg helped the 94 team Swedes win the gold medal. Anyway, Forsberg would try to play for Sweden at the Winter Olympics, but they took 5th place. Forsberg was actually named Sweden's flag bearer for the opening ceremonies in the 2010 Winter Olympics, which was pretty amazing. Oh, that's sweet. As I said, he would help Sweden win the 2006 gold medal. So basically, yeah, his injuries just ruined him and all that. Forsberg is married to Nicola Nordin, and they have 3 children, and they reside in Switzerland. So yeah, his NHL numbers 249 goals, 885 points, and 708 regular season games. Imagine what would have happened if he was healthy. And he would score 171 points in 151 playoff games. So yeah, if he was healthy, he would have been much better player than you think he was. But just injuries just screwed him over. I feel bad for him. I really do. So that's pretty good for him. And he was an icon for hockey in general. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I did